The Evolution of Transportation in Michigan by Catherine Leskowitz,
Natalie Marsky,
Sarah Garman,
Leah Basala,
Catherine Xie.
Technology has and always will be changing, advancing to make our lives easier. One of the first recorded technologies is the wheel, very primitive yet revolutionary. The wheeled vehicle, in its basic function, has remained the same over time, yet technology has changed its appearance and made it more efficient.
One of the first wheeled vehicles in Michigan was the horse-drawn carriage. The style and quality of horse-drawn carriages varied widely. Wealthy people owned elaborately decorated and nicely built carriages. Women especially used these fine carriages. The lower class traveled in standard wood and leather carriages. Large carriages were often used to transport lumber and other goods within Michigan. Horse-drawn carriages were not highly efficient because the horses needed to travel for breaks, meaning that long-distance travel was a challenge. While this was very beneficial for Michigan's economy, the limitations of horse-drawn carriages made it difficult for Michigan's resources to be moved outside of the state and expand the economy.
Railroads became widely used in the mid-1800s. The idea of using rails and tracks for vehicles is not a new idea, but in the 1860s, a British scientist invented a process to help mass-produce steel. This allowed the transport rails to be made of steel and therefore more durable and long-lasting. Locomotives that ran on steam power could also be made of cheap, durable steel. As a result, railroads and trains became very popular in the United States.
By 1880, there were over 53,000 miles of track throughout the country, and this mode of transportation became more and more prevalent. People used trains for short-distance trips, long day trips, and cross-country trips. It allowed people to travel more widely across the United States for a lower cost. In 1860, it only took 2 days to get from New York to Detroit by railroad, as opposed to 30 days by carriage.
The cost of this transportation was affordable, so the common person was able to travel more readily. The trains were also used by the wealthy, who had more luxurious accommodations. In addition, trains allowed for the movement for people in times of war, for example, during the Civil War.
Businesses used railroads to transport raw goods such as coal, steel, and lumber. Unlike horse-drawn carriages, trains could be used to transport greater distances. Around the 1840s, Michigan companies began expanding their business to industrial hubs such as Milwaukee and Chicago. This allowed Michigan's economy to thrive. Because of its large reserves of natural resources, Michigan became a major contributor of manufactured goods. In fact, Michigan was the largest producer of rail cars in 1890. Factories producing rail cars in Michigan allowed the transition to car assembly line factories to occur more easily.
Car production was on the rise in the early 1900s. Once inventors began making cars with gasoline combustion engines, like the horseless carriage pictured here, the race was on to effectively mass-produce cars. Many companies started using basic assembly lines, but Henry Ford revolutionized the assembly line in 1908. As a result, cars could be made at a rate of 200 per hour, and therefore were much less expensive. Michigan soon became a land of opportunity for people seeking a decent wage, and they were employed by Henry Ford as factory workers. Henry Ford and his assembly line changed Michigan history forever.
Before the assembly line, cars were custom-made and only available to the wealthy. After the assembly line, members of the middle class were able to purchase Henry Ford's revolutionary Model T. The Model T and other early automobiles made travel for the common people more affordable and reliable. These new automobiles also encouraged independence, especially in the increasingly mobile women population. Even doctors were able to be more available to their patients through the use of early cars. Dependence on public transportation decreased, and travel limitations imposed by horse-drawn vehicles were eliminated. As the years went on, even luxury vehicles could be mass-produced, such as the Corvette seen here. The 1950s saw thousands of luxury vehicles designed for the middle class. Cars became easier to use, had more features, and were more customizable to fit different lifestyles and preferences.
Today, car companies are trying to improve on the early technologies. New fuels are being introduced to increase efficiency, and unlike the 1900s, Michigan's resources are in jeopardy of being expended. Just as the wheeled vehicle evolved from horse-drawn to steam-powered to gasoline-fueled, companies hope to continue to evolve to utilize more renewable energy sources.